Fox News alert, the Justice Department starting to release hundreds of thousands of pages of Epstein files. Today was the deadline. We're starting to see new photos of former President Bill Clinton pictured with disgraced billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Fox Digital is reporting there are 1,200 victims and their families discovered through this process. Let's bring in House Oversight Committee Chairman, Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Congressman, I understand that you have already seen much of what is being released today. Is that correct? And what have you seen?
Well, we've seen a lot of documents. What I think's not been accurately understood by most Americans is the Trump Department of Justice. They have released several thousand pages of documents. Now, what they've released in the last 30 minutes is another several 100,000 pages, some of which we may have already had, but we're going through them as we speak. It'll take several days to go through all of these documents, but this is what the American people wanted. This is what Congress overwhelmingly voted for, and I applaud the Trump administration for complying with this request and getting these documents so that everyone can lay eyes on them and judge for themselves who the bad guys are in this whole disastrous Epstein saga.
Well, as you mentioned, it's going to take some time to make it our way through that many thousands of pages. One thing that we can do is try to search for those new photos reportedly of former President Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein, and we're working on that actively to bring to you here, hopefully within the next hour, within the next couple of minutes here on the Will Cain Show. But you're right. The American people deserve transparency and demand transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. So can we trust that this new document dump will not be overly redacted beyond what is obviously necessary to protect the identity of victims?
Well, I would assume at some point I will be able to lay eyes on the unredacted versions. We know that the victims want their names redacted, so there's going to be a lot of black lines for these documents because there are over 1,200 victims now, according to the Department of Justice. So that's a lot of redactions in itself when they describe the names and addresses of the victims and things that would lead people to understand who those victims were. This is one of the biggest requests from the victims is that they remain anonymous. They don't want to go through this again, and I respect their wishes, and I know the Trump Department of Justice does as well. But if we find that there's any type of effort to redact the names of victimizers, people who were involved in terrible crimes against these women, then I can tell you my committee, the Oversight Committee, will be the first to unredact and shine a light on those names because we want people to be held accountable for what was done wrong. We also want to know why the government failed in so many years. These crimes went on for decades through 5 different presidential administrations before Epstein was finally put in jail. So there are a lot of questions that the American people have, and we're going to do everything we can on the House Oversight Committee to get answers, and hopefully it'll be bipartisan. Hopefully the Democrats will stop playing games. They've been releasing a picture or two and redacting the faces to make it look like Trump had some liability. And we saw yesterday the victims met with several Democrat female members and told them to cut it out, to tell Robert Garcia, who's my counterpart on oversight, the ranking member, the Democrat, to stop playing politics. The purpose of this investigation from the Oversight Committee standpoint is to provide justice for the victims and get the answers that the American people demand. And I think that with these new documents, we're going to be able to do that.
You're referencing a picture that has been made public of President Trump with some 4 or 5 young women, their faces redacted to make it appear as though they were victims, when in fact it turns out they were Hawaiian Tropics models, all of whom, by the way, have been interviewed and referenced President Trump as a perfect gentleman. So we will now see, hopefully, what is true in these hundreds of thousands of pages on Jeffrey Epstein. Congressman, thanks for being with us here today.
Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.